All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another webinar from DQ&A. This time, I've brought with me two colleagues from the UK to have a quick talk about auction time bidding and taking bidding to the next level within SA360. Our agenda for today would be a few points to cover. First of all, we're going to tell you a bit about what auction time bidding actually is. Why you should use auction time bidding for your campaigns, how it works, and how you can test it. We'll, of course, afterwards wrap it up and summarize it for you. And at the end, as usual, we have our FAQ and QA. So we have a few common questions noted down, which we will answer and we will present to you. But you're always free to ask questions within the chat. We will answer those questions at the end of the presentation. And one other thing I wanted to note, if you won't be able to make it through the whole webinar, don't worry, we're going to upload the webinar to YouTube. We'll record it and upload it to YouTube for you to watch at a later stage as well. So today I am joined by my colleagues Leo and Greg from the UK. Leo is managing search consultant there, and Greg is a search consultant. So you're in good hands, and you know me. I'm your host, Fabian, account consultant, and I'm going to hand over to Leo and Greg and wish everyone a great webinar.
Cool, thanks, Fabian. So to kick things off, what is auction time bidding, or ATB, as you'll see and hear a lot of throughout the following slides? So auction time bidding combines the power of your Search Ads 360 conversion goals with then the agility of Google Ads Smart Bidding, enabling you to optimize your bids at query level, ensuring that you're appearing in front of your most valuable users. So just as a flavor of some of the things to come, starting from the green hexagon working clockwise, gives you access to more bidding signals. It allows more frequent changes to bidding, more so than the default intraday bidding. It allows optimization at query level, and it gives the opportunity of a shared goal across your entire account, which just helps everything reach optimal performance. And because of that shared goal, it helps learnings to be gathered across all account activity. And then because of those all account learnings, that helps to reduce the amount of delays, so less launch time or learning time.
Thank you, Greg. Hello, everyone. This is Leo, and I'll take you through why you should use auction time bidding. First, let's take a step back and review the previous performance smart bidding approach in Search Ads 360. The classic intraday bid strategies in Search Ads 360 could make 4 bid changes a day, using machine learning to make bid decisions for your keywords, devices, locations, and audiences.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I think we got a slight delay with the slides. Now we're at the classic intraday bid strategy slide. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, so we just jumped. I'm sorry, but just wanted to make sure we're on the right track.
No worries. Thank you for that. On the devices, locations, and audiences front, it would change the bid modifiers, which were percentages beyond your base bid. These bids would all work to hit your ROAS or CPA goals. So that's making bid changes 4 times a day, using a few different signals and making bid adjustments or modifiers for locations, audiences, and devices. So if we look ahead to auction time bidding, Google have touted it as the most advanced smart bidding system. And here's why. Now, on this slide, we should be looking at the intraday signals versus the auction time bidding signals. So let's have a look at the breadth of signals now at our disposal. In the blue circle are the signals previously available through intraday bidding. You've got device, RLSA, similar audiences, locations, day of week. With auction time bidding comes new signals, as illustrated in the green outer circle. Now Google will be able to consider signals such as their environment, such as operating system, browser, device type, application, and a user-specific situation, time of day, conversion path, and the actual query. That query signal is important because instead of changing a base bid on a keyword level that would apply to multiple search queries, auction time bidding can actually change bids for each specific query. These rich, unique signals will be used to set a distinct bid for every auction in Google Ads. So to recap, instead of changing bids 4 times a day, as you would in intraday SA360 bid strategies, auction time bidding is changing bids on every auction. ATB utilizes significantly more signals than standard intraday bidding, and ATB will change bids for each individual query. So again, rather than setting a bid on a broad match keyword that could cover many search terms, each bid is tailored to the particular search. And these are the 3 core elements of the Google auction time bidding system. And when combined with floodlights from Search Ads 360, Google have seen amazing results, reporting a 15 to 30% typical advertiser uplift when enabling Search Ads 360 auction time bidding. So where does this sit within the current Search Ads 360 bid optimization for performance capabilities? We've prepared this table based on our own observations, reviewing how making manual CPC changes, whether that's in the user interface or via bulk sheets, automated rules in Search Ads 360, whether you're using the intraday bid strategies that we touched on earlier, and ATB, and measuring how they compare across numerous categories that represent user management and performance and effectiveness. Of course, there will be nuances and capabilities unique to every business. So let's start by looking at the manual CPC changes. So if you're changing bids manually, you'll need to formulate the bid logic yourself, act on it and check performance frequently, repeat the process each time you want to make any bid changes, and then with the signals used, you may end up combining multiple data points from various sources, which could add up to your setup and maintenance time. Through manual changes, you'll be able to change your keyword and product base bids and the modifiers only. Moving on to automated rules, they're fairly easy to set up once you plan the conditions, actions, and schedules. And thankfully, you'll just then need to check the rule changes through change history and the notifications that may be going to your emails. You'll have to repeat the rule setup process if you want to make multiple bid changes a day, as individual rules can only be set daily. And like with manual changes, you can only change base bids and modifiers. Moving on to the third column, that's intraday bid strategies. These are simple to set up and maintain. Bid changes are made 4 times a day based on the signals we touched on earlier. And again, you can only change base bids and modifiers. Finally, if we move on to the final column, which is auction time bidding bid strategies, you'll see that from a setup, maintenance, depth, and frequency perspective, auction time bidding offers a convenient and powerful solution. They're simple to set up, and Greg will go into more details on the setup shortly. And through the other methods, you will not be able to achieve the same level of signal depth and the same level of bid depth as you would with auction time bidding.
Cool, thanks Leo. So how does ATB work? And to begin with, how would you set ATB up? So from the bid strategy console, adding a new bid strategy, as you normally would, there is a feature opt-in called auction time bidding. You'll see when selecting this, it'll then grey out your typical opt-in options, which are your keywords, your remarketing lists, location and device modifiers. And then when you hit next to add your goals and targets, you'll be presented with a disclaimer for the first time. And this is just mentioning that once you launch your auction time bidding strategy, actually what you choose as your conversion goal will be shared into Google Ads and will actually override what you would normally call your Google Ads conversions. More on that in just a little bit. The next part, once you've accepted the disclaimer, is pretty familiar. So choosing your conversion source, you'll see a few less options than normal, but for now we can opt into formula columns, floodlight activities, and also Google Ads conversions. And then once you've pulled that through, that then is what is fed into Google Ads.
Sorry to interrupt there, but that's very interesting. So it seems like you can just tick that checkbox within the bid strategy console, setup console. Can you enable auction time bidding on existing bid strategies that you may have set up already?
Yes, great question. So the short answer is yes, you can. So what that will mean is your conversion goal that's currently set up on your existing intraday bid strategy will then become your new Google Ads conversion goal, or what it sees as a default conversion goal. And that's a term we've not mentioned yet. And again, we've got more detail of exactly what that is and what to expect from that in a few slides' time. So what happens on the day of opting into your ATB, and what happens then following that first day? So here's a few things to keep an eye out for. So on the same day, your conversion goal, as we've mentioned, is exported into Google Ads, and that then replaces your conversion seen in the conversion column. Search Ads 360 in the background will continue to use intraday bidding, which is what you're used to with the 4 changes a day, while the data then is being analysed. And actually, in Search Ads 360, your auction time status column will display learning. Then, from 7 days plus conversion delay, so for example, if you've got a 3-day conversion delay, that's then 10 days after, your auction time strategies will be enabled then in Google Ads. Search Ads 360 auction time status will then change to enabled. And actually, your SA360 will then start to set your target CPA or target ROAS conversion goal at a campaign level. Following that point in time, actually then auction time bid strategies will continue to evolve and then improve and reach more optimal performance. And SA360 will continue to update campaign targets as necessary, just to make sure then the overall portfolio goal is achieved. So what would the conversion goals look like in the Google Ads interface? So in the typical conversion console, this is then what you would start to see. And it starts to detail exactly as you've pulled through on your conversion goal from Search Ads 360. And also you can see how many campaigns that's applied to. Actually looking at conversions, we can see here in the yellow line, from the day of opting into ATB, our Google Ads conversions have reached 0. And actually what's replaced that is our floodlight transactions. So in this particular example, of those 3 conversion goals we could choose from, thinking back, that was formula columns, Google Ads conversions, or floodlights. Here the choice was floodlights, and that's why that's taken precedence. But actually, more on the default conversion goal that we mentioned. So if you are opting into your auction time bidding strategy for the first time and you haven't set an account level or a campaign level default conversion goal, actually what will then be considered as your default conversion goal is that first conversion goal that you set or choose. It could be prevalent that before opting into your auction time bidding for the first time, if you go to your advertiser settings, and from the 4th option down, you will see default conversion goal. That defaults as empty. So from there, you can create whichever goal you desire to pull into Google Ads. And actually, once that's set at advertiser level, that is what will precede the bid strategy conversion goal. And actually, the benefits of that is once that's pulled in across all of your Google Ads campaigns, it then allows your bid strategy algorithm to learn from campaigns that sit outside of the bid strategy portfolio, which is pretty interesting. And then the benefit of that, it also enables a one-time warm-up for auction time bidding strategies. So a flavour of what that is, any new campaigns that are added to your existing auction time bidding strategy won't require a learning period. And likewise, any new auction time bidding strategies you set live that are working towards the same default conversion goal also won't require a learning period as well. So pretty powerful for advertisers who are looking to get going with any new tests.
So that saves a lot of time because intraday bidding strategies, how long do they take to get up and running? compared to auction time bidding?
Good question. So it's typically advised that the first 2 weeks, or up to the first 2 weeks, you would leave your intraday bidding strategies paused as they learn the activity of the portfolio they're associated with. And even at that point, once you set it live, it's still not out of its learning period. It then has to go through between 4 and 10 days worth of learning. And what does that mean? Okay, it's still going to make changes as it's live and as it's learning, but those changes are likely to be optimal to what you would expect. And so taking away that 2 week plus the 4 to 10 days of learning time, actually that's pretty powerful in how many tests you can fit in your calendar year. So what kind of additional benefits could you expect to see in Google Ads? So your account recommendations from the engine will now use Search Ads 360 conversion goals when calculating your potential uplifts for feature activation. Also, a pretty cool one is your Google Ads specific reports will now show your SA360 conversion goals. So for example, if you're pulling in floodlights, they will show in your search query reports. And also your optimization scores will reflect the new source of truth when determining how well your Google Ads accounts are set up. So auction time bidding has been around now for the best part of the whole of 2019, but actually it's in the final third of the year that a lot of this technology was released, or well, not a lot of it, but the one-time warm-up and the default conversion goals were released. So they're really stabilizing features and updates that have come through. So what happened before default conversion goal was launched? In Google Ads, you would have expected to see if the SA360 campaign has the auction time bid strategy enabled, then you would see that bid strategy goal pulled into Google Ads. For any campaigns that sit outside of that portfolio, they would have had Google Ads conversion settings. So limitations there from what we've covered so far is you wouldn't get that shared learning from the whole account activity. Now the default conversion goal has been released, actually what we can see is this matrix starting from the top left to the bottom right. So if your campaign has a Search Ads 360 ATB strategy enabled, yes, then in Google Ads, naturally that would inherit that same strategy and target. And as we know, before the launch, that would have had the bid strategy goal. After the launch, that doesn't change. It still has that same bid strategy goal. This is then when we're looking at campaign doesn't have an SA360 auction time bidding strategy applied. This is where we start to see the differences. So if that criteria is met, plus if it doesn't have a Google Ads bid strategy applied, previously we would have just seen your standard Google Ads conversions, but actually now we will see that default conversion goal start to pull in place of the Google Ads conversions. What if though it doesn't have an SA360 auction time bidding strategy, but what if it does have a Google Ads conversion strategy? Then actually we would see one of two things. If that is shopping activity, including smart shopping, we will then also see that default conversion goal pulling through. If, however, it's a search campaign or a DSA campaign, we will continue to see the Google Ads conversion settings. So actually, if you're able to run with fully SA360 auction time bidding strategies, or at the very least without any Google Ads conversion-based bid strategies, that's going to only benefit you in that all of your account activity, including perhaps your brand that may run separate to your non-brand strategies, that's all going to feed into performance trends, which means at times like the end of November where we're coming into Black Friday, actually bid strategies are pretty quick at picking up on patterns and trends in account performance. One important thing to note here, any subsequent ATB strategies you set live in Search Ads, if their bid strategy goal differs from their default conversion goal, that's still going to set up as you've requested, but actually then what happens is the campaigns within that portfolio aren't going to contribute to the default conversion goal. So again, you miss out on that synergy across your account. So needs must in some cases, but our recommendation would be try and keep that bid strategy goal and your default conversion goal as in line as possible.
So to confirm, you can do one bid strategies that have a different conversion goal to the default, but it's best practice to have them all aligned just so the account and the whole advertiser learns. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. And the one-time warm-up, which we've referred to as well, So the concept here is this allows you as the advertiser to skip the learning period when you're launching any new auction time bidding strategies, and also when you're adding new activity to an existing bid strategy or auction time bid strategy. Some considerations here: it's only available on accounts which have defined default conversion goal. It only activates within the live auction time bidding strategies with the live default conversion goals. And it only activates on accounts that have gone through that initial 7-day plus conversion delay warm-up period. And what is then supported within auction time bidding? So conversion types, as we mentioned, or as we saw at the start of this section, we can opt into floodlights, we can opt into Google Ads conversions, and we can opt into formula columns as well. What we can't opt into are offline conversions, Google Analytics conversions, or formula columns that set device targets.
Now, Greg, sorry, will that always be the case?
Fortunately not. So we have some planned updates coming up, and within that, actually, what we can expect is the Google Analytics columns and metrics will be an opt-in for our conversion goal in the near future. So pretty exciting stuff and pretty powerful for those advertisers looking for something different. And on the right-hand side of this sheet here, we have what campaign types, but actually the best way to look at this is what bid strategy target is usable for auction time bidding, and specifically those top left two quadrants. So anything working to conversions or target CPA, and anything working to revenue or target ROAS. What we can't use it for is then click-based strategies or positional targeting or budget bid strategies either.
Thank you, Greg. So how do we try auction time bidding? So we know how it works. How do you go about testing it yourself? Firstly, let's review what you're using Google Ads conversions for. Based on what Greg went through, making the switch will change the source of your Google Ads conversions. So check your Google Ads scripts and any automation rules based on Google Ads conversions. Ensure you're familiar with what happens when moving to auction time bidding. And then next, let's create a new performance bid strategy in the Search Ads 360 advertiser. Thirdly, add pause campaigns to the new bid strategies. Then enable ATB. This will activate the default conversion goal and make it come into effect, and enable floodlights to be sent to Google Ads. Next, sense check that Google Ads is sharing floodlights with Search Ads 360. You can do this by navigating to linked accounts in Google Ads and enabling the authorization at the appropriate level. And finally, review the auction time status column of the campaigns in Search Ads 360. Once it says enabled, you can proceed with your ATB tests as planned, knowing that new ATB bid strategies will launch very quickly. So sum up, what these steps will do will set you up to make sure you can launch auction time bidding bid strategies very quickly with the one-time warm-up feature enabled. So once you're prepared to launch, you then have to consider how do you measure the test and how do you ensure that your auction time bidding tests are successful. One feature that helps is Google Ads Experiments. Google Ads Experiments allows you to set up split tests that send traffic to either original campaigns or the experiment campaigns. With your experiment campaigns, you can make the changes that you want to test, say changing the bidding optimization method. Then you can have your original campaigns that are optimized with the current method run alongside your experiment campaigns that are optimized with a new bidding approach. After a period of time, you can then measure the uplift. So how would you set these up? Well, first, identify the campaigns that you want to test. Similar to intraday bid strategies, it is best practice to pick campaigns with similar performance and goals. Make sure you consider conversion thresholds and sell lag, and then you can identify those campaigns to test for the next step. What you'll then do is create experiments off the back of those campaigns. We'd suggest considering a naming convention to spot experiments easily amongst your other campaigns. You can use a 50-50 split test for fast results, and we'd suggest selecting cookie-based for clean data for each user. Here you'd have two options. you have cookie-based and search-based. Search-based means that one user can do 2 searches and see both your original campaign and your experiment campaign, whereas cookie-based makes sure that this doesn't happen. And the user's performance can therefore be attributed to either the original campaign or the experiment campaigns alone, making it a very clean test. Finally, once you set up your experiments in Google Ads, it's just a matter of assigning the auction time bid strategy in Search Ads 360. So you'll sync and then go into your auction time bidding bid strategy and assign the campaigns. When setting up the A2B bid strategy, you select your experiments, and you could probably filter using the naming convention you defined earlier to make it easier to pick them out. Then with the auction time bidding bid strategy live in your experiments, you can optimize your original campaigns as you normally would. Monitor results in parallel over the same period of time, and once you've gathered enough data, you'll be able to see what the impact is. Now, what can happen when launching auction time bidding? You may see a few initial effects due to the change in bidding logic. Firstly, you may see higher than average CPCs immediately after launching. There may be more clicks from better auctions and higher bids, and fewer clicks at lower bids for poorer performing auctions. We've seen this from our own internal tests, as the Google auction time bidding algorithm has identified keywords or queries to increase based on the conversion data and signals the algorithm is interpreting. You may also see higher spends. By aiming to hit growth targets, e.g. delivering more conversions at the same CPA, the algorithm will spend proportionally more budget too. You may also see lower impression share. This again is due to how the auction time bidding algorithm treats bids based on performance. And you may see reduced impressions from previously poor performing queries, especially on broad match keywords. Hopefully, though, you'll see higher conversion rates. With the breadth of signals and data at its disposal, conversion rates from the traffic the ATB algorithm is optimizing towards should improve. So to give ample time and the best chance of success, you can see an example timeline that we've put together here. Before launching your bid strategies, you can trigger the one-time warm-up as we described a few slides ago to ensure that you can launch future auction time bidding bid strategies quickly. Then, when launching, you can set up your Google Ads experiments as needed, create your ATB bid strategy and set it live. After 2 weeks, you can review performance and tweak constraints if needed. After 4 weeks, you can then make changes to the actual target. We would suggest making small target changes here to keep the performance stable and optimal. We found success by making small changes at a more regular basis than one big change on an irregular basis, as it allows Search Ads 360 to stabilize performance. After 6 weeks, you can then evaluate your performance versus the original campaigns. Hopefully, you'll see great results.
Cool. So, some of the planned updates we've already alluded to as we've gone through these slides, but just to run through those and recap. So, there is soon going to be the potential to opt in to auction time bidding through budget bid strategies. And naturally then that is your primary goal, to spend the budget, but with that, your secondary goal is also still achievable, and that's then your TROAS and TCPA as well. Use of Google Analytics columns we've mentioned, and we'll soon see these as an opt-in for default conversion goal and also for the bid strategy conversion goal. Also then, min and max bid constraints. So this is a really powerful one for those who've seen wavering CPCs or loss of impression share. Actually, what you can do here is set your minimum and maximum constraints as you would do with your intraday bidding strategies. And also then, you don't just have to stick with the parent level target. Actually, you can override that at ad group level. So for those campaigns which are perhaps underperforming or have got opportunity to really perform well for you, then you can stretch them within your portfolio at ad group level.
So to summarize, hopefully what you took away from the webinar so far is that auction time bidding combines the power of Search Ads 360 conversion goals with the agility of Google Ads smart bidding. that utilizes a rich set of unique signals to set a distinct bid for every auction in Google Ads. That we've seen, Google has seen a 15 to 30% typical advertiser uplift when enabling Search Ads 360 auction time bidding. That they're easy to set up and they enable you to launch subsequent bid strategies immediately with the one-time warm-up feature. You can trigger one-time warm-up ahead of your planned launches and then use Google Ads experiments to measure the uplift from auction time bidding on your campaigns, and provided to give ample time for the auction time bidding bid strategies to run, considering the potential initial effects of launching before evaluating.
So this is something that in the follow-up link to the webinar, you'll see a URL or a hyperlink through to this PDF. And this is really a sanity checker for when you're setting auction time bidding strategies live. How can I make sure that they're going to be set up in an optimal way and to make sure I've got the best chance for success? So here's a few steps for pre-launch and post-launch as well.
Excellent stuff. So here we've listed out a few frequently asked questions we've received so far when talking about auction time bidding with our partners. So one question that comes up is, what happens to my Google Ads conversions if pulling in default conversion goal?
Great question. Now, Google Ads will essentially stop recording your what would normally be conversions from your Google Ads conversion pixel. And instead, as we know, it starts to report back on your chosen conversion goal, whether that's your formula column, floodlight, or Google Ads conversion, as it was. Actually, then, what happens in the future if you were to opt out of your auction time bidding? Do we then see Google Ads conversions backfilled, or do we see something else? And the answer there is that what was the conversion goal will remain in the interface for a reporting purpose. It will not backfill as Google Ads conversions. Second one, can we set bid constraints?
Yes. As Greg mentioned earlier, the max and min constraints are upcoming feature. At the moment, this capability isn't available yet in auction time bidding, but Google have announced that they are planning to roll out the min/max bid constraints feature in auction time bidding later on. So, next question. What happens if I put incompatible campaigns, i.e. from other engines, into an auction time bidding bid strategy?
So here, auction time bidding is specifically a Google Ads compatible. So actually what will happen is the other campaigns will optimize to intraday, as you would typically expect from your default bid strategies. How do we optimize auction time bidding?
Yeah, so this is a great question because as it operates on a query level for every auction, the visibility and the change it's making is quite limited. So it's really about understanding what levers you have to play with. The most important ways you can impact and change an auction time bidding strategy or bid strategy is through the data that you give it. The more recent and clean and important data that you can upload as a conversion source into auction time bidding bid strategies, the more data it has to play with, and the more helpful that the performance of the auction time bidding bid strategies will be to your overall goals. So data is one key lever, and as mentioned, changing the targets and changing the constraints when available will allow you to shift the way auction time bidding bid strategies optimize. But I will want to put at this point that's very important to leave ample time before evaluating, rather than making very quick impulse decisions on a particular hour or data or a very short period of time. Keep in mind the conversion delay, keep in mind your sales lags, and ensure that you're actually measuring whether the clicks of this activity now could lead to conversions later on before deciding an approach. The last question we've received quite regularly is, why can't I change the bid adjustment settings of the auction time bidding bid strategy?
This one really comes down to the nature of this product, and that is it optimizes each bid at a query level. And so with that, as we've seen, we can access a whole host of different signals. Some of those signals are then the bid adjustments we would typically optimize to, so the device, the location, and the RLSA. So because this tech requires every signal and every lever control over each one, that's why we no longer can adjust our usual bid adjustments.